My girlfriend started sitting on another guy's lap and he started getting touchy with her, and when I spoke up she called me controlling and left me for him. I, 28 male, have been with my girlfriend Nicole, 25 female, for about a year now, and lately things have gotten really messy. We met at a friend's birthday party last year through our mutual friend Jake, 29 male. I wasn't even planning to go to that party because I had a work deadline, but Jake literally dragged me there saying I needed to stop being such a workaholic. That's where I met Nicole, and we just clicked instantly. She was standing by herself near the drinks table, looking kind of lost because she only knew Jake there. I went to get a drink and we started talking about random stuff. Turned out we had a lot in common, same taste in music, movies, even the same weird obsession with collecting vintage video games. She's a graphic designer and I'm a software developer, so we both understood the creative process and the pressure of client deadlines. We exchanged numbers that night and started dating a week later. Everything was perfect for the first 9 months. Our friend groups merged naturally, and everyone kept saying how perfect we were for each other. Nicole and I spent most weekends together, either having movie marathons at my place or going hiking with our friends. We had our small arguments like any couple, but nothing major. Things started changing when Brock, 30 male, came into the picture. Jake had moved back to town after working in another state for a few years, and he brought Brock along. Apparently, they were college buddies who'd stayed in touch. At first, I didn't think much of it. Brock seemed like an okay guy. He works as a real estate agent, drives a fancy car, and always has stories about his big deals and wealthy clients. He got along with everyone in the group pretty well. But then I started noticing things that made me uncomfortable. The first incident happened about 3 months ago during our weekly movie night at Jake's place. We were all sitting in his living room watching some horror movie, me, Nicole, Jake, Brock, and 4 other friends. Nicole and I were on the couch with Brock sitting next to her. During a scary scene, I saw Brock put his hand on Nicole's thigh. It wasn't like he was consoling her during the scary part or anything. His hand just stayed there for what felt like forever. I was shocked but didn't want to create drama in front of everyone. Later that night, when we got home, I brought it up with Nicole. She just laughed it off saying, "That's just how Brock is, he's touchy-feely with everyone. Don't read too much into it." I tried to believe her, but something felt off. After that, I started paying more attention to Brock's behavior around Nicole. He would always manage to sit next to her during group gatherings. When we'd all go out for dinner, he'd somehow end up in the seat beside her. He was constantly touching her in small ways, a hand on her shoulder while talking, standing really close to her, or touching her back while passing by. I noticed he didn't do this with any other girls in the group, not even our friend Sarah who's single. Every time I tried to bring this up with Nicole, she would get defensive. She'd say I was being paranoid and that Brock was just being friendly. She started bringing up how I never had problems with her other male friends, implying that I was being unreasonably jealous. But none of her other male friends ever touched her thigh or tried to be physically close to her all the time. Last weekend, I couldn't go out with the group because I had a major project deadline at work. Nicole went without me, which was fine. We've always given each other space to hang out with friends separately. But yesterday, my friend Mark, 27M, called me with something that made my blood boil. He was at the bar that night and saw Nicole sitting on Brock's lap, laughing and drinking. According to Mark, this wasn't just a quick joke or something. She sat there for at least 20 minutes, and they looked very comfortable with each other. I was furious but tried to stay calm when Nicole came over last night. I asked her about the bar and what happened with Brock. She immediately got defensive and said she was just drunk and it didn't mean anything. According to her, she sits on all her friends' laps when she's drunk and I was making a big deal out of nothing. But that's not true at all. I've been with her to countless parties and bars over the past year, and I've never seen her sit on anyone else's lap, drunk or sober. We had a massive fight about it. I told her it was disrespectful to our relationship and that Brock clearly had other intentions. She exploded, saying I was being controlling and trying to dictate who she could be friends with. She brought up how I never had a problem with her male friends before Brock, and then hit me with something that really hurt. She said I was just jealous because Brock was more successful and confident than me. The fight ended with her storming out of my apartment. She hasn't replied to any of my messages since then. Today, Jake called me and said I was being an asshole for trying to control Nicole. He said Brock was a good guy who would never try anything with someone else's girlfriend. Apparently, Nicole has told everyone in our friend group about our fight, making it sound like I'm some controlling, jealous boyfriend who can't handle her having male friends. Most of our friends are taking her side. They're saying I'm being unreasonable and possessive. Even Sarah, who's been my friend since college, texted me saying I need to apologize to Nicole and stop being so insecure. Only Mark seems to understand where I'm coming from. He's seen how Brock acts around Nicole when I'm not there. I don't think I'm being controlling or unreasonable. I think it's perfectly normal to not want your girlfriend sitting on another guy's lap or letting him touch her thigh. I've never had issues with Nicole having male friends before. She has plenty of them and I've always been cool with it. But Brock's behavior seems different, and her defensive reaction to my concerns only makes me more suspicious. Am I wrong for feeling this way? Should I apologize just to keep the peace, or should I stand my ground? I really love Nicole and don't want to lose her, but I also don't want to be disrespected like this. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I feel like my whole life has turned upside down. After our fight about the lap-sitting incident, Nicole went completely silent for 5 days. No calls, no texts, nothing. I tried reaching out a couple of times but got no response. Finally, on day 6, she texted saying we needed to talk. She suggested meeting at this coffee shop where we had our first date, which should have been my first clue that something was wrong. When I got there, she was already sitting at a corner table, looking nervous. She didn't even get up to hug me like she usually would. She just gestured for me to sit down and started playing with her coffee cup. After what felt like forever, she finally looked at me and said she needed a break to think things through. According to her, my jealousy was suffocating her and she needed space to figure out what she wanted. I asked her if this was really about my jealousy or if it was about Brock. She got defensive immediately, saying not everything is about Brock and that I was proving her point by even bringing him up. She said she couldn't handle the constant accusations and suspicion. When I tried to remind her about the thigh touching incident and how Brock acted around her, she cut me off and said she was tired of explaining normal friendly behavior to me. I respected her decision and agreed to give her space, even though it killed me inside. But over the next week, I kept hearing things from friends that made my stomach turn. Mark told me Nicole and Brock were showing up together at all our usual hangout spots. Sarah, who had initially taken Nicole's side, called me one evening sounding concerned. She said she'd seen them at our favorite pizza place, sitting in a booth together, and something about their body language seemed off to her. Mark tried talking to Jake about it, thinking maybe Jake could talk some sense into Brock since they were old friends. But Jake shut him down completely, saying we were all acting like high schoolers and needed to mind our own business. He actually had the nerve to tell Mark that if Nicole and Brock got closer during this break, it would be my fault for being too controlling. Then last week, everything came to a head. I was at O'Malley's pub with Mark on a Thursday night, just trying to have a couple of beers and watch the game. Around 9 p.m., Nicole and Brock walked in together. They didn't notice us at first because we were sitting in a corner booth. They went straight to the bar, and what I saw made my blood boil. Brock had his hand on her lower back, not just for a second while they walked, but constantly. Nicole was leaning into him, laughing at everything he said, acting like she used to with me. When they finally noticed us, Nicole's face changed for a split second. She looked guilty, almost scared, before quickly putting on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But Brock? He just looked at me and smirked. Actually smirked, like he was enjoying this. I know I shouldn't have done this, but I couldn't take it anymore. I walked up to them, a bit too fast maybe because Mark started following me immediately. I confronted Brock, asking him what his game was. I wanted to know if this was his plan all along, to move in on Nicole while pretending to be just a friend. Nicole jumped between us, defending him of course. She started saying I was making a scene and needed to leave. By this point, other people at the bar were staring at us. Mark had to physically pull me away before things got ugly. The next morning, my phone blew up. Jake called first, yelling about how I tried to attack Brock unprovoked. Apparently, Nicole and Brock had told everyone that I showed up at the bar looking for a fight and had to be restrained. They conveniently left out the part about how they were basically cuddling at the bar during our supposed break. Over the next few days, the story spread through our entire friend group. Nicole started telling people things about our relationship that were completely untrue. She claimed I had been emotionally abusive throughout our time together, saying I tried to control who she talked to and where she went. She told them I would check her phone when she wasn't looking, never happened, and that I had tried to make her quit her job because there were too many male colleagues, absolutely false. The worst part is, most people believe her. Nicole has always been the sweet, friendly one in our group. Everyone loves her because she's always ready to help, always has a kind word for everyone. I was more of the quiet type, focused on my work, not always present at every social event. So when it came down to her word against mine, people naturally took her side. Now, only Mark and 2 other friends are still talking to me. Even Sarah, who had started to see through Nicole and Brock's behavior, backed off after hearing these stories about me being abusive. Last night, she texted me saying she couldn't be friends with someone who treated women that way. I feel like I'm going crazy. I keep replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, wondering if I really was too controlling, if I imagined all the red flags with Brock. But then I remember how he touched her thigh that first time, how he always managed to be physically close to her, and how she's acting with him now, and I know I wasn't wrong. I just wish others could see what I see. Update 2. It's been a month since everything blew up, and I just found out something that makes me feel like a complete idiot. After the bar incident, Mark kept saying something wasn't adding up about how quickly Brock and Nicole got close. He started asking around, talking to people who knew Brock from his previous job. Yesterday, Mark called me over to his place saying he needed to tell me something face to face. Turns out, Brock and Nicole didn't just meet through Jake like everyone thought. They actually worked together at her old graphic design firm 2 years ago, before she switched to her current company. Not only did they work together, but they had dated for several months and kept it quiet because of company policies about workplace relationships. When Mark told me this, everything started making sense, all those inside jokes between them that no one else got, how comfortable they were touching each other from the start, and why Jake always defended their behavior. I called Jake immediately, and he finally admitted he knew about their history. He said he thought Nicole should tell me herself, that it wasn't his place to say anything. But during that conversation, he let something else slip that hit me even harder. Apparently, Nicole and Brock had been meeting for lunch regularly for the past 2 months, even before our fight about the lap-sitting incident. Jake knew about these lunch meetings because his office is near their usual spot, and he'd seen them together multiple times. He said he didn't think it was a big deal since they were just catching up as friends. I spent the whole night going through old photos and messages, and now I could see all the signs I missed. There was this office party 6 weeks ago where Nicole said she couldn't invite me because it was employees only. I later saw pictures on social media where Brock was there, claiming he was visiting old colleagues. They were standing next to each other in every group photo. Even worse, I found out that the night Nicole got too drunk and crashed at Sarah's place last month, she was actually with Brock. Sarah hadn't wanted to tell me because Nicole made her promise to keep it secret, but after finding out about their history, she felt guilty and confessed everything. Everything makes sense now. The touching, the defensive behavior, how she turned everyone against me, it was all calculated. She was probably planning to leave me for Brock all along but wanted to make me look like the bad guy first. That way, she wouldn't have to deal with being labeled as a cheater in our friend group. I sent Nicole a simple message telling her I knew everything about her history with Brock. She took hours to respond, but when she did, it was with a long paragraph about how she never meant to hurt me but she and Brock had reconnected and realized they still had feelings for each other. She claimed she was going to tell me eventually but was waiting for the right time. She said she was sorry for how things ended but still maintained that I had anger issues that needed addressing. The most infuriating part? She actually tried to blame me for pushing her back to Brock. She said my controlling behavior made her seek comfort in someone who understood her. She conveniently forgot to mention how she lied about their history and had been secretly meeting him for months. Jake finally called me today to apologize for not telling me sooner. He admitted he should have said something when he first noticed them getting close again. But his apology felt hollow. He watched me get painted as the bad guy for weeks while knowing the truth the whole time. Some friend he turned out to be. I haven't responded to Nicole's message. What's the point? She's already made me out to be the villain in this story, and nothing I say will change that narrative now. Our mutual friends have chosen their sides, and most of them still believe I'm the jealous, controlling ex who couldn't handle Nicole having male friends. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I've learned a lot about who my real friends are. Nicole and Brock are officially together now, posting couple photos all over social media like they're living some perfect love story. They've managed to maintain their position as the victims in this situation, and it's almost impressive how they've rewritten history. Last week, I ran into Sarah at the grocery store. She actually tried to act friendly, asking how I was doing. Then she had the nerve to tell me that everyone makes mistakes and maybe it was time to let go of my anger. According to her, Nicole and Brock only got together after our breakup, and I should be happy that Nicole found someone who brings out her best self. I just walked away. There's no point trying to explain the truth to people who don't want to hear it. Mark told me they've been telling everyone a completely different version of what happened. In their story, Nicole and Brock were just friends who developed feelings over time, and they only got together after Nicole and I broke up because of my controlling behavior. They've completely erased their history at the old company and all the sneaking around they did behind my back. Jake finally sent me a long text apologizing for not telling me about their history. He said he felt guilty watching everything unfold and knew he should have spoken up sooner. But I told him it was too late. A real friend would have told me the truth when he first saw them having those secret lunch meetings. Instead, he watched me get vilified while knowing the whole story. The worst part is how they're still affecting our friend group. Last month, there was a birthday party for one of our mutual friends. Mark went and said Nicole and Brock were there, acting like the perfect couple. Apparently, Nicole made a big show of getting emotional when someone brought up how hard the past few months had been. Brock comforted her in front of everyone, playing the role of the supportive boyfriend perfectly. I've cut off contact with anyone who chose to believe their lies. I blocked Nicole, Brock, and Jake on all social media. I also blocked most of our old friend group. I don't need to see them commenting heart emojis on Nicole and Brock's relationship posts. I'm focusing on my work now and spending time with people who actually had my back through all this. Mark and a couple other friends have stuck by me, and I've reconnected with some old college buddies I had lost touch with. We have game nights every Thursday now, and it's actually better than the forced hangouts with the old group. Sometimes it still hurts when I see Nicole and Brock around town. This isn't a huge city after all. Last week I saw them at our old favorite coffee shop, sitting at what used to be our table. But the pain isn't as sharp anymore. If anything, I feel sorry for Brock. If Nicole could lie and sneak around behind my back, she could do the same to him. The whole experience taught me that sometimes losing people shows you who was really on your side all along. I'd rather have 2 real friends than a whole group of fake ones who'd believe lies about me without question. I'm not dating right now, I need time to work on myself and my career. But when I do start dating again, at least I know what red flags to look out for.